What if today my Easter message to you was good morning, now go home and you'll see Jesus? What would you think about that? Some of you might be relieved and welcome that kind of message, but some may not. So what would you do? Be puzzled? Or would you go home expecting to see Jesus there? Now, good morning, go home and you'll see Jesus is not original to me saying it. I got it from Jesus in today's gospel. Greetings, Jesus says to the women. Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me. And that's it. He was tortured and executed, and that's all he says. It's basically a repeat of what the angel had told the two women. It's a pretty simple statement. There's just not a lot of drama in the resurrection for Jesus. Jesus does not make the empty tomb an extravaganza. He could have, but he didn't. Jesus and his disciples are already in Jerusalem. They could have met there. What better place than the centre of political and religious power? But they didn't. He could have made a theatrical appearance before the Roman authorities and the religious leaders. But he didn't. He could have called attention to himself. Hey, look at me, I'm back. I told you so. But he didn't. Instead, he offered greetings and then sent his disciples back to Galilee and said they would see him there. Galilee was their hometown. Jesus is sending them home. He's sending them back to what is known and familiar, to the original and routine, to the themes of everyday life. That, he says, is where we'll see him. And those are the places where his life intersects with and transforms our lives. They're described in the Bible stories we hear all the time. This past Friday, it was Jesus so completely identifying with us that he gets up on a cross with us, suffers with us, and dies with us. There's something hopeful and life-giving in that, isn't there? There's something of resurrection in that. On Thursday, he gathered us around his table to eat and drink in remembrance. He fed us with his own body and blood, and our lives were nourished. Resurrection. On Palm Sunday, Jesus chose the will to live over the will to power. Resurrection. Who fed you? That's resurrection. Have you ever felt stuck and without energy or direction in life? Well, remember the lame man and Jesus saying, "Stand up, take your mat and walk." That's resurrection. Have you ever felt unwanted, unacceptable, unloved, or maybe even unlovable? Well, Jesus ate with tax collectors, outcasts and sinners. They and we are a place at his table. Resurrection. Have you ever had new insights into your life, a new way of seeing the world, another person, or yourself? Every blind man whose eyes were opened by Jesus experienced new life. Resurrection. When was the time you felt at home, comfortable in your own skin, as if you had made it to the promised land after wandering in the wilderness? Yes, that's resurrection too. Recall a time you offered or received forgiveness and you worked with another to rebuild trust. Resurrection. Have you ever had a time when order came out of chaos or light from darkness and you felt recreated, renewed and alive? That's resurrection too. And the stories of resurrection are as unique and particular as each of us here today. So on this Easter Sunday, let me ask you this. Where do you expect to see Jesus? In your home? Among family and friends? In strangers? In those who are different from you? In the midst of suffering and death? In the joys and celebrations of life? In times of insight and learning? In relationships? In silence and stillness? In the attempts to live a good life? In the failings to live a good life? In the pain and heartbreak of life? In the struggle to rebuild a relationship? In the refugee? In your marriage? In the challenges of parenting? In becoming the parent and carer of your mother or father? In the midst of illness, old age? In good conversation and laughter? In intimacy and vulnerability with another? Well, yes, the answer is yes. Those and 1,000 other places of where resurrection is. We are the resurrection miracle. Resurrection does not exist separate and apart from our lives, and it is not exclusive to Jesus. If we cannot find and see Jesus in our ordinary everyday life, we surely will not find him here today amongst the Alleluias. Those things are not intended to set this day apart from all the others. Indeed, this day is intended to reveal the resurrection, truth and reality of all other days. The stone was not rolled away from Jesus' tomb to make his resurrection possible. It wasn't rolled away so that Jesus could get out. It was so that we could see in. So we could see that there is no death, there is only life. Resurrection isn't just an event in history, it's a way of being, it's a way of life lived full. The empty tomb is not simply the conclusion to Holy Week, a divine remedy to a human tragedy. It is the summary of everything Jesus said, did or taught. When it comes to resurrection, it seems God just can't help himself. Resurrection is just who and how God is. There is nothing but life, there is only life. After all that, I only have one thing to say to you on this Easter day, and you already know what it is. Good morning. Now go home and you'll see Jesus.